Hi, everybody. My name is Lauren Smithson. Most of you, I think, know me here, but I'm still going to say that I'm a Sapphire Ambassador with Plexus, and I am so excited to talk to you about the 5 levels of leadership. I don't think our team has done this specific book before, but when I went gold for the first time, I was added into this gold group of the people that are gold below Lori Welch. Lori, what's her last name now? Bradford now. And 4 Diamonds did a book club on this book, and I listened to all their videos, and it literally changed my entire business. And that is when things just took off. So I'm hoping for all of you that as we go through this book, lots of light bulbs are going off and you're learning a lot and soaking it in and really utilizing it to move your businesses forward, because I promise you, if you do soak this in and take it seriously, you're going to learn some things about yourself. You're going to learn some things about the people that are on your team, and it's going to propel you forward. So if that's something that you want, then show up on Thursdays, be here, talk with us on here, like be really enveloped in this. And I promise you, it's going to get you really far. So that is the first thing that I wanted to say. This could be life-changing for you if you let it. This first 50 pages is really going through all the different levels of leadership that they are, just briefly, and then doing a self-assessment, doing a team assessment, and having your team do an assessment on you, and then briefly talking about level 1 leadership. So that's what we're going to do today. And there were so many golden nuggets in here. I'm going to try to share as much as I can, but I also am really excited to hear some examples that you guys thought of with level 1 leadership specifically, some of the takeaways maybe that you had when reflecting on your own leadership and where you're at currently. So I'm really excited about that too, because I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away from this first 50 pages is it really dove into where I am now, and some holes that maybe I have now, even as a Sapphire, because we all are growing and learning and we all have things to learn. So I know that hopefully it was valuable for all of you guys too. John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. Leadership is influence. So if we can increase our influence with other people, we're going to be able to lead more effectively. So that is what this book is going to focus on. It's going to help you figure out how you're going to lead your people and yourself better. He says in this book, good leadership isn't about advancing yourself, it's about advancing your team. So you are going to learn about yourself, but you're going to also learn how to really connect with people and how to find where their holes are and lead them further as well. So let's briefly go over the 5 different levels of leadership that there are. Level 1 is positional leadership. So this is where like you're a McDonald's manager, or maybe if you're like a lot of us on here, you are physical therapists, occupational therapists, your supervisor is a level 1 leader to you when you first meet them, right? They are your boss. They tell you what to do, basically. It's somebody that you have to follow, you have to listen to, and they have subordinates. They don't really have team members. They have people that they have to guide and tell them what to do, basically. The thing with Plexus, though, is that yes, the people that you sign up, they're your level 1s, right? So you have positional leadership over them, as in you are their sponsor, but that's pretty much it, because they don't really have to listen to you, right? In a job setting, you do have to listen to your supervisor, otherwise you could get fired. But with Plexus, this is a volunteer army. So we don't have control over what people do. We are, though, in a position of, I've been taking these products a little longer, I've signed you up, and so I have this positional leadership over you, but there's nobody that has to ever listen to you. So that's why we really want to get past that first position. If you are still just a position 1 leader with your people, that means you signed them up and you don't check in on them anymore. And you're not really creating that relationship with them, which we don't want, obviously. There's a lot of good stuff about positional leadership, and we're going to get into that too, but we really want to move past that positional leadership to grow with Plexus. Really, anybody can be given a position, but there's a lot of people that are given positions that don't necessarily do a great job at that. And I'm sure there's lots of examples you guys can think of, but not everybody can really thrive in that role. So obviously we've all probably had bosses that we don't really necessarily love, or we don't really necessarily respect a lot because they don't ever move past that position with us. The next level, level 2, is permission leadership. Now this is like the bread and butter of Plexus, truly, because Plexus is a people business. So we want to build relationships with people. This is when you are becoming good friends with them. You're learning about their family. They're learning about your family. You're developing that influence and trust with people because you're developing a relationship with them. So this is probably one of the more important steps that we really can't go backwards on. Now, that's something I want to say too, with all these levels of leadership, it's not that like level 1, I'm only at level 1. Oh man, I'm not very good. Or I'm only at level 2. Oh man, I'm not very good. No, these are all building upon each other. So we really want to get to each of these levels and maintain them as a foundation as we move to the next level. So this level 2 is where probably a lot of us are comfortable at, and probably a lot of you have ranked yourself well in that area because we're good at connecting. That's one of the things that a lot of people in Plexus are good at, connecting with people, developing relationships with them. And that's when you're really going to thrive, when you have people that trust you. One of my favorite quotes during this section was, you can like a lot of people without leading them, but you cannot lead people well without liking them. So this step of really getting to know people is going to be foundational for moving to that next level of leadership with them too. Yeah. And I think that if you ever get to the point where you're not connecting with people anymore, it's going to be really hard for you to get them to trust you, to want to do the business with you, or to maintain taking their products. A lot of this is really maintaining that friendship. So they say, okay, I'm going to give it some more time, or I think I am ready to start sharing because I know that I can do it because you do it and we're friends, right? So that relationship part is really important. I'm so sorry about the dings, you guys. I don't know how to turn them off. Okay, level 3 is production. So this is where you are going to the next step, right? You're not just friends with people, but now you're producing, and people are respecting you and following you because you are adding to the organization. Now that is, you are recruiting people, you're developing silvers, you're starting to get your team into momentum and moving forward. And then people are like, what's she doing? I want to do that too. And you're inspiring your team to start doing that too, developing silvers, recruiting people. This is really important. This level of leadership is really important if you want to become a jewel, because this means that you are in production mode yourself and you're teaching your people how to get into production mode too. You're starting to hold them accountable a little bit for the things that they say that they want to do. And you're getting results. So this is a really important one too. I think a lot of people get comfortable at level 2 leadership and have a hard time transitioning into level 3. But I do want to let you know, I rewatched the videos from the Goldies group too, because I wanted to hear some of their takeaways. And they made a really great point that was, there are a lot of jewels still that aren't really great at level 3 and level 4 leadership. You don't have to be the best leader to get to jewel status, but to continue to grow, you want to get through these levels, right? You want to always aspire to be growing and learning about yourself and how to lead people more. But there are some people that get to jewel status that aren't necessarily the strongest leader here. So just know that everything is learnable and it's doable for you. And just don't feel like you're not going to be able to get somewhere because you haven't done something yet. This is all figure outable. And really, and we're going to get to level 5 here in a minute too, but all the way through level 4 is something that you can learn and strive to be. Level 5 leadership is really usually something people are born with, but we'll get to that in a second. So level 4, these are people that are developing leaders. So this is people that are developing jewels and other diamonds, like Fallon, right? She's got tons of diamonds underneath her, tons of jewels that are duplicating. That is level 4 leadership. You have teamwork that's at a really high level here. You're reproducing yourself again. So other people that are really strong leaders. People are following you because of what you have done for them, and you're producing jewels, basically. You're empowering people to become stronger leaders themselves. So that's level 4, people development. And then level 5, I kind of mentioned, that's pinnacle. So this is the highest, most difficult level of leadership. Like I said, most people can get to level 4, but really what John Maxwell says is only naturally gifted leaders, people that are born with it, not really something that it's cultivated. It's something that is inherently already inside them, can get to level 5. These people are the ones that go past their type of work, really, and they are adding value in other ways. So the most recent example that I could think of with this is Brittany Howard has poured into all of us so much. And now she's starting a podcast where she is going to be sharing all of her wisdom with like literally everyone and producing more content, more leadership content past Plexus, right? So she's definitely a level 5 leader. Or other people I've thought of that have made podcasts or whatever, like Jessica Heffley has her podcast, Emily Gibson has a podcast, Brooke Hemingway has her marriage retreats and has had other types of retreats where she develops leaders outside of Plexus. And so those people to me are level 5 leaders, where they're going past what the company is already offering, right? So a couple rules with the levels of leadership. You can move up in levels, but you never want to leave the level behind, right? So like I said before, you're building and stacking, you're not forgetting levels. And something that I was reminded of is that if you feel like, I've kind of been stuck somewhere for a while, maybe that is somewhere that you look at where your leadership is at and you do that self-assessment and you pick apart what your strengths and weaknesses are in your leadership. And maybe you have to go back a step. Maybe you're producing, but you're forgetting to connect with your people. You always want to be building on top of things instead of, great, now I'm going to produce, but my team will figure it out, right? No, you have to just layer and layer it upon itself. And don't forget the foundational stuff that you were doing before. Also very important, you're not going to be at the same level with every single person that you lead. So if you have 5 level 1 business builders underneath you, you might have one that you are a level 4 leader with. You are developing them, you have a great connection, you are a level 4 leader in their eyes, and you mesh well. And then maybe you have somebody that's just starting and you're still working on having them trust you with all of this, right? So you're at a different level with everyone. The higher you go up, the easier it is to lead, likely just based off of being more effective because you have more experience with it too. And your influence grows as more people are under your leadership as well. The higher you go, the more time and commitment is required to win a level. And that just makes sense, right? Positional is just usually given to you. And then you have to work at getting the friendship really cultivated. And then you have to work at producing. So there's more energy and commitment involved the higher up that you go. Moving up occurs slowly, right? You have to work for each movement up, but you can lose it really, really, really fast. So let's say you break trust with somebody or you have an argument that goes south, you can lose your trust and you might have to start all over at the beginning with people. So make sure that you're really intentional about maintaining the foundation of your relationships with people because things can fall quickly, unfortunately. The higher you go, the greater the return. That just makes sense, right? Yeah, you're developing more leaders. So then those level 4 leaders are then producing other level 4 leaders. Moving up further always requires further growth. So if you want to become a level 4 leader, obviously you're going to have to work for it, right? You have to it's figure outable, but you have to then figure it out and do that work. And learn the skills to get to that next level. Not climbing levels limits you and your people. So this part's really important, you guys. If you are like, it takes a lot of work. I don't really know that I have it in me to get to the next level. Just know then that if you're not willing to get past level 2 leadership, you're not probably going to develop people past a level 2 leader. So if you want to develop level 3s and level 4s, you've really got to work on developing yourself too, so that your leadership lid rises and then their leadership lids can rise as well. That's why this personal growth is so important, and learning every day, every week, and showing up to book club and having these discussions and soaking it in and then applying it, because the more that you learn, the more that you're going to be able to pass on to your people. This is a little unrelated to Plexus, I thought. Number 9, when you change positions or organizations, you seldom stay at the same level, but this does. So we're not going to change companies, right? We're with Plexus. We are Plexus lifers here, which is amazing. So we're not going to necessarily go to a different organization, but this made me think, like, when you have a new business builder, you're starting over with them at level 1 or level 2, and you have to grow that just like with anybody else. And then you can't climb the levels alone. You can't become a better leader without leading more people and having a team behind you and learning how to do it and trying and failing and trying and failing and growing from the experience that you get from leading people. So I loved that there was the assessment right in the chat. If you did the self-assessment, or if you had your team fill out the assessment of you, I thought that was super great. Those of you that are on my team, there were a few of you that I sent that assessment to, and I said, will you please send this back and please be honest? My team is too kind to me, for sure. Like, when I did my self-assessment, I was really hard on myself, and I think it's important to do that. But I hope that you took the time to go through either the PDF, if you listen to it on Audible, there's a PDF on the Audible, or if you have the book, if you went through and actually like checked off where you're at. It's really, really important to do a self-assessment first and be critical, because if you want to grow, you should be critical and say, am I really doing that? And be honest with yourself. And then definitely, if you have people that are on your team, see where you're at too, because you want to make sure that you are being the leader that you want to be for them, so that they can raise themselves higher too. So that was really eye-opening for me. So hopefully you guys did that, and I'm hoping we talk about that a little bit in the second part of this call. Okay, so I had a couple other notes that I took that I wanted to share here too, and then I will open it up because it's already 9:22. But what I thought was important was going through some examples of level 1 leadership and what a level 1 leader in Plexus could look like, just to give you some ideas. Because if we don't talk about what a level 1 leader would look like in Plexus, which obviously we want to be level 2 or more if we want to grow, then we're not going to be able to get ourselves out of level 1 if we don't know what that already looks like. So sometimes what a level 1 leader could look like in Plexus, and there's a lot of good things about being a leader that has a position, right? But if you're relying on your position, you might say something like, oh, I'd be ranking up if my team was doing this a little bit better, or if they'd listen to me, or I tagged my team and all that stuff, but they didn't do it. Or we had the conversation, but they're not taking action. If you are just relying on your people to do what you tell them to do, that is being a positional leader. To get really to that next step, you want to inspire them. You're not telling them what to do, but you're leading by example, and you're doing the things and you're inspiring them to do it. Not just based off you being their like drill sergeant about something. So I thought that was really important. And then, or you are like, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of level 1s and I'm recruiting 10 people to get the Apple Watch this month. But then none of those people become silvers, or you don't follow up with them and they don't maintain themselves taking their products. That would be a level 1 leader. So really look at what you're doing day to day, week to week, what your activity looks like, what you expect from yourself and what you expect from your team. And to really get past that level 1 leadership, you want to be inspiring people instead of just expecting them to just follow the things that you tell them to do. So let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. I want to say a caveat or jumping off of that though, it's okay if you've said those things. It's okay if you relate to them. I think a lot of us have at some point said that, thought that, I'm sure. So I just am bringing that to light so that we can say, okay, I want to go past that. So how do I move past that? Right. Just to say again, too, if you're feeling like you're stuck somewhere, like let's say you've been at a rank for a long time, then maybe this is going to be a really good book for you to see where is my leadership at? Where are some of my holes? Where are some ways that I can improve so that I am a better leader, so that I can move myself forward? I already had mentioned each level isn't bad. It's not bad if you're a level 1 leader. It's not bad if you're only at level 2 right now. You're building upon that and you're going to keep those foundational skills to move yourself to the next level too. So without further ado, I will stop there. I'm sure there's lots more that I could have said, and I will probably say more as we discuss, but I want to hear from you guys too. So I'm going to mute myself and I look forward to hearing what you guys thought.
So many amazing takeaways, Lauren. You did such a great job. I know it's hard to like condense his material into like 15-20 minutes. There's just so much to go into. I was actually talking with Jen, who is on the call tonight. She's a friend of mine and one of my L1s today, about the self-assessment. She had her team at work take it, and she had some really great feedback, and she sent it out like anonymously through Monkey or Survey Monkey, so people could be honest. And I thought that was a really great idea. And she's amazing. First of all, like, she is a great leader and she leads an amazing team at her job. But you know, just the feedback that she received was a lot of positive feedback. But then like some things we were talking about, like, well, you know, I didn't realize, you know, this was an issue. Like, one of the things was she has a couple new hires and they don't really know her that well. So like developing the relationships with them, you know, and that just kind of reminded me too, and reiterated what the book said of like, your leadership level is different with each person. So the people that she has been with for years, she's like a level 3, level 4, as she is duplicating herself and grooming a couple of people to take over her role. You know, so she's a level 4 with them. But the new people, she's starting off as a level 1, and then, but she'll then quickly develop those relationships and build through the levels as she goes. So yeah, it was just a really great assessment. We had a great conversation about that today. I just took the self-assessment tonight. I'm hoping to send out the team assessment to my team so I can get a better picture of where I'm standing, where I can improve on, and what I need to do. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying learning more about the different levels.
Super valuable. I'm so glad that she sent that to like her non-plexus job. That's really cool. I don't lead anybody at my other job, but I think that that would be really good if our leaders did that, right? If they took some feedback too. I think it's always important to self-reflect. So that's great.
So I'm Jen. Can you hear me? I didn't think I was going to talk, but thank you, Rochelle, for all your kind words. That was very nice. I am also very inspired by you, and I am new to Plexus, so this is my first call, but I am a huge John Maxwell fan. So, and I've read this book before, but it's been a really long time. But yeah, I thought that that feedback was great from my team. You know, one of the people marked the question that said, your leader cares about your personal life and asked you, and she said no. Like, oh gosh, okay, I need to do a better job of that. So that was interesting to me, and I hope they were honest. You know, it's hard to know for sure, but I purposely made that Survey Monkey and made it anonymous so that I also wouldn't know who put no, because I was afraid it might skew my input. But anyway, thanks for having me.
Smart to make it anonymous in both directions, I think, because you definitely don't want it to be like, oh shoot, I have to like watch myself around that person or whatever. But cool that she gave you honest feedback though too, even though it's like, oh, maybe I thought I was doing really well at that part, but maybe I need to go back and reevaluate. So that's great. Thanks so much for sharing and being vulnerable with that. That's amazing.
And if anybody knows Jen, like she is such a relationship person. She's very positive. And so like we both like laughed at that just because, you know, we both try very hard for that, you know, relationship building, but then we are also very task oriented people. So sometimes we do get focused on the task, and, you know, it has been a couple of weeks since we asked about the family, you know, so they may, you know, so just taking that conscious effort to kind of go back, you know, to that relationship piece too is helpful. But yeah, I thought it was great feedback.
Well, I think it's important. Sometimes I think too, like in our desire to be conscious of people's time, sometimes our messages may be short with people. And it's not because we're trying to be poops, it's because we just want to be mindful of people's time. So sometimes, and you know, Lauren and I, we've gone through this a couple of different times. I might say something and it's like, wait a minute, that wasn't the way that I meant it. I just was trying to be cautious of time. So, you know, what we're trying to get out, especially if we're typing it in a message versus calling someone on the phone or leaving a voice message, how we're trying to get something across isn't necessarily our intent. So I think that having that feedback is really, really good as we move up those levels, or we attempt to move up those levels, because a lot of times, you know, our perception isn't someone else's reality. So making sure that we're checking those things and we're going back to some of those levels as we're working on the 2s, so we can go up to 3, so we can go up to 4, because, you know, it does, we don't always mean things, or people don't always perceive us the same. So I think that that's really important, and to be able to recognize that as we move up through some of these levels, to check ourselves and be able to make those adjustments and learn and grow. And that's how we get to those higher levels, is admitting our mistakes, improving them, making a conscious effort to make a difference, and going forward. So I think that those are really, really important things to take away as we're going through these levels.
So true. I'm glad you made that point, because yeah, we're all so different. We all communicate differently. And yeah, that is so important. And I think I also sometimes get caught up in production mode too, where I'm like all business and I'm like, okay, I have an agenda and we have stuff we need to talk about. And then you kind of forget about the relationship piece sometimes. I've totally done that. And people can feel that, you guys. Like, people really can feel it, whether it's a business builder or somebody that you want to take the products or whatever it is. So just don't forget to go back to that as much as you have to, because that's really specifically in Plexus, the relationship piece is going to be the most important part to build off of, to have any growth with people, whether it's working the business or having them trust you to restart the products for the 3rd time or whatever it is. If you have that solid relationship with them, that's going to take you far. Or if you have had a relationship issue where it breaks for some reason and you have to restart, don't be afraid to do that too. It's okay. It's happened. And it gets better. It's okay. We're people. That's going to happen in a people business, but just going back to that, building again, restarting, it's okay if that has to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of part of what I took away too, was just remembering, as you know, it talks about how you're at different levels with different people. Also, like getting on the phone with people and, you know, meeting up in person if you're close by, because it creates more of that relationship and that connection. So then you can move to the next level. Because if you're just always sending messages and texts, like it's hard to fully create that relationship. You know, asking about someone's day doesn't feel quite as genuine if you're just, you know, texting them versus reaching out. And just some of what I've been doing since reading the book or the chapter is like reflecting back on those different people. You have those people that, you think they would be really good builders. You're trying to build them up. You're kind of at a point where you're struggling and figuring out, okay, where am I as a leader? Like, what steps can I do to move myself forward to the next level so that way I can bring them up with me or get them to be more effective with their products and understand what I'm trying to tell them better or be better at the business and share more or see the vision.
Such a good point about getting on the phone or sending voice messages or whatever, like you were mentioning in the beginning. That made me think of the team call from last week where Jamie was talking about three-way calls. And I know a lot of us are trying to be more intentional about getting new joins on the phone too. It's for that same reason. It's to build that level 2 leadership. You're not just, 2 levels above them sponsor. You are now Lauren with a voice and a face and a name and a personality, and you care about them and they care about you. And then as your relationship grows, then you're going to have more influence on them taking the products or becoming a business builder too. So I think that's going to be huge for all of us to really take advantage of getting on the phone, even if it's uncomfortable, because that is going to help us at least have a stronger foundation and less people falling through the cracks too.
Something that I say all the time too, like other leaders that I work with too, is that the people are the most important part. And they are also like sometimes the most exhausting part and the most fun, but they really, there's a lot to that. I mean, we have to put so much time to it. And sometimes it feels like that gets in the way of production.
Such a great point. Yeah.
Though we were talking in our last book in the Get Over Yourself book too about, what's the value of your time, right? And so if you spend 15, 30 minutes on the phone with somebody, you build that relationship. You've got somebody that's working with you, that's trusting you, that you're going to be able to do a whole lot more with. So that 15, 30 minutes was a really good investment versus having, this sounds really not pleasant, but that time there is better spent a lot of times keeping that person than it is at times trying to find a new person and doing everything all over again. So, if you look at that, it's time, it's that relationship, it's that person you can trust that you can go through. And then think about how much time it takes every new person trying to look at that and pull things and trying to find a common connection and get to know those people so that you can start growing there. So it's definitely really, really important. It's a good use of your time. And having those relationships with people are super important. I mean, like first day of school, right, guys? The teacher doesn't walk in this first few weeks of school and just start going on to all the students, because the kids will look at them and just go, huh? And they go home and complain. We can't do that with our people too. We've got to build and grow and do all those things. You can't run on day one at a 5 when the people are at 1.
And you know me, I always relate these books back to parenting. And my 2 kids. So I was going to say, like, parenting is exhausting, right? Like kids can wear you down. But same thing that Jen was saying too, like, even though they're the best part in building that relationship with your children, they are exhausting, but putting in that time and effort early on. And then as they get older, they know your thoughts, they know where you stand on topics, and then you can develop, like you raise your leadership led parenting them. So then they raise their leadership led and capabilities from that. So, as now mine are in high school and college, which is weird to say, I can now, when they have topics, they come to me and ask me for advice. I can then ask them questions in return to help them solve it, or what their thoughts are, or if they have topics they want to discuss. I always approach it with that open mind and just ask them questions to get them thinking and critical thinking about it. And it raises their leadership lid as well. So I think too, like if you're stuck in your Plexus career, if you're stuck in your 9-to-5 job career, if you're stuck in your parenting, look at your leadership led and where you're at in those categories, and raising that can then help you become a better director, a better leader, a better parent. It's all, I've always looked at parenting as developing leaders. I never wanted to raise children. I wanted to raise adults who were self-sufficient and independent. And I've probably put a little bit too much pressure on them maybe growing up, but they turned out okay. So who cares? They're fine. But it is all about raising that leadership led. Because if you are on a scale of 0 to 10, if you are a 4 leader, you're not going to create anybody above that 4. But if you raise up to a 7, you can create leaders up to level 7. And then you'll attract people who are more like you as well. So yeah, I always have to relate these books to parenting because I think it's so helpful, and it has definitely made me a better parent in the long run.
That's so true. So many good points. I have a lot of the same thoughts. And then when I also with parenting is like, well, you should just respect me because I'm your mom kind of attitude, or I'm your dad. Like, so automatic, you should just respect me, which yes, biblically our children should be respectful of us, but we also need to display attitudes and effort and relationship with them so that they have the trust and relationship to want to respect us too. So yes, it's hard when they're little, like, yes, you're respectful because I'm your mom. But as they get older and they're teenagers, you want to make sure that we're earning that respect to some degree, not just leaning always on this because I said so, which always can be it can be an answer, as long I feel that we come back at a certain point and have further discussion, but they need to obey too first, right? And then the other thing I found, I didn't send the assessment to my team yet because I was reading it all this morning and I didn't think that was fair to do to them at the last minute. So I will be, team. But I like too how I could see myself over the last couple of years from when I read this, like a long time ago. I actually read the book and I saw where I've grown a lot in a lot of the areas and categories, but also like sometimes there were little things that I'm like, well, this still needs work, but I'm really advanced in a lot of these other things over here. So that was encouraging. And I think that you guys want to remember that, like, we all have those inborn characteristics and leadership traits that we already do come to the table with. And so as we're continuing to develop those, because those are our strengths, and then yes, like we're spending 80 to 90% in our strengths of our time, right? And then working on these other habits or other I don't have good words, I'm sorry, long day. So these other things, I have no words, we're still working on those, but we're also still playing in our strengths too. And that's really important. And it's almost like I'd say it's a mixed skill. So when I worked pediatrics as a physical therapist, kids have these mixed skills. They have mixed skill levels. Some are reading a ton and knowing all their letters and sounds, and others are over here doing math in their head at 5 years old, so there's a lot of mixed skills, and we have that in leadership too, and just in life and skills that we're working on. So that be an encouragement that as you're developing yourself, like, it's okay, and those kind of mixed skills, so to speak, are normal, and it's okay to have that. It doesn't mean it's okay to stay there, but it is okay to identify that and realize it doesn't just negate your whole leadership lid. It does not just negate it. Oh, well, I'm doing really good in all of these except these 2 I'm lower on, so I guess I'm not that type of leader, that level of leader. That's not necessarily true.
So many good points. I feel like this first little part of the book was just like full of all the good stuff and the foundational stuff that we have to know for then learning about level 1 through 5 too. So anybody have questions or more comments that you want to share, or did you think of other examples of different types of leadership in Plexus while you were reading through? Crickets. That's okay. This was really good discussion, you guys. I think we're going to get a lot out of this book, so I'm really excited to dive in. If you are in the golds and above group, I would encourage you to also, if you have time, listen to their takeaways too, because it was phenomenal. Obviously, we want you to learn from us and all of that, and we want to teach you and tell you what our takeaways are too, but that was really powerful to listen to their takeaways as a goal. So maybe there's some things that they'll say that will really resonate with you as well. But anyway, have a great week, you guys, and we will see you next week for the next section of pages. Or wait, is next week Hawaii? We're not doing next week. Okay, 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, bye everybody.